We shall never surrender!
Let's continue our story in this video. Part 2 of the World War II. If you haven't seen the Part 1 yet, please check out the link below in the description.
It is difficult to single event that sparks a conflict. It's a series of events together to eventually light flame of war.
The world's most during World War II in 1939. No such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
At this point, World War II had not yet truly begun, a period known as the False War. Because there wasn't a real war yet, even though technically these countries had declared war on Germany. None of these countries provided Poland with military assistance. The Polish army was extremely old-fashioned. Their army still used horses which could not withstand the German military strategy. And neither Great Britain nor France could save them. Nearly 1,300,000 people were mobilized in Poland, but it took less than a week before the German army defeated them. On September 8, 1939, German troops occupied Poland. It is important to mention Hitler's Revolutionary War strategy here, known as the Blitzkrieg. This is how Hitler successfully invaded several countries. This military strategy concentrated on speed and stealth. With tanks, they invaded the countries so quickly that their opponents had no time to think. And then the Air Force came in from above. They called it Luftwaffe, and the invasion happened with lightning speed. Hitler concentrated on making the wars as small as possible. A war could end quickly, in less than a week. In order to maintain this blitzkrieg, German soldiers were administered medication. A drug called Pervitin was common, but we now know that it contains crystal meth. When this medication is taken, relieves tiredness. You don't need any sleep. It suppresses hunger and thirst, relieves pain, and boosts the user's confidence. Giving such a drug to soldiers proved to have tremendous benefits. Although extremely harmful to their health in the short term, it was very useful in winning these wars. The defending soldiers wasted their time sleeping at night, while the German soldiers were able to fight them at night and finish the task within no time. As the story progresses, you will see how successful the Blitzkrieg military strategy was for Germany. Back in Poland, not only was Poland being invaded by Hitler, but the Soviet Union was also being invaded by the other side. It was defeated and it was split into two. One part went to Nazi Germany and the other half went to the Soviets. The logic used by the Soviets was that before the Russian Revolution the territory actually belonged to the Soviets, and that they deserve it. But from the Soviet perspective, there was another country that was part of the Russian Empire before 1917, which was Finland. Stalin was afraid that Germany would invade Finland. Stalin couldn't really trust Hitler that it was Leningrad, where Stalin lived, and was only 50 kilometers from the Finnish border. Had Finland actually been occupied by Nazi Germany, they would have been too close to Stalin's homeland. Without waiting for Hitler to attempt to occupy Finland, the Soviet Union demands Finland hand over its territory to the Soviets. Apparently Finland refused, and so the Soviets launched military action against Finland in November 1939. What exactly did Soviet leader Joseph Stalin think? What were his ideologies? That is the other debate we will discuss another day. That war was an imbalance of the war. The army of the Soviet Union was much larger than Finland. They had better equipment too. But this war continued for more than 2 months, and the Soviets didn't gain much. Finally, March 1940, that battle was over, and the Moscow Peace Agreement was signed. Accordingly, 11% of Finnish land would be handed over to the Soviet Union. At this time, Hitler didn't really have Finland in mind. He looked towards Norway and Denmark. In April 1940, Hitler prepared his plans and how he could gain control of Norway and Denmark. On April 9, 1940, Hitler used his Blitzkrieg strategy, invading Norway and Denmark. This invitation didn't last long either, since both were small countries. How could they stand up to this German army? The Norwegian government fielded to London, and a government in exile was installed in London. And in Norway, Hitler established his Nazi puppet government. The British PM accepted his failure. failing to protect so many neighboring countries from Nazi invasion. For this reason, he resigned from his post as Prime Minister on May 10, 1940, and that responsibility was handed over to the famous Winston Churchill. On the same day, on May 10th, Hitler launched an attack on France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. This was the declaration of an all-out war. Everyone could see that Hitler had no intention of quitting. At the beginning of the video in part 1, I told you how France built the Maginot Line because they feared that Hitler would attack their country. They built a wall along the border. The French groups lined the wall to protect their country. Allied forces placed wire ropes along the borders of Belgium and Luxembourg to protect them.
Like that of Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Austria, will be decided by the victory of the British Empire.
Hitler used his trademark Blitzkrieg strategy. More than 1,000 fighter bomber planes, around 3 million soldiers on the ground, as a criminal offense for Germany. This came to be known as the Battle of France. The German troops were split into 3 groups: A, B, and C. Group B was supposed to attack the Netherlands, and then invade Belgium to fight against the Allied forces. For Group C to attack the Magic Line. And you were wondering what Group A should do. Group A was the master plan. Attack by Group C on the Maginot Line was simply aimed at destruction, so Group A secretly implemented the master plan. Entering France through the Ardennes forest. This was a huge forest that French military experts thought would be a strong fortress. They assumed the German army would never be able to do it because it would be too difficult. They didn't expect that the German army would invade through this forest. More than 40,000 military vehicles were deployed by Group A to enter France through this forest. They captured Sedan on May 15, 1940 and headed north. The British Army's battle Group B in Belgium. They were shocked to see the suddenness of this, which causes the large force to attack them from behind. The soldiers were surrounded by the Nazi army from 3 sides. They had only one option to escape, by sea, close to Dunkirk harbor, so they planned to escape from there. What happened at Dunkirk was the second historic turn of events in the world. Nearly 400,000 Allied soldiers stranded on the beaches of Dunkirk. Here is to mention that the countries that fight against Hitler are referred to as allies, and the countries that fought in support of Hitler, the so-called Axis powers. It was crucial to rescue the Allied soldiers in a timely manner, because the Nazi army was approaching them at great speed. They had no other option to escape. The only way they could evacuate was by sea. If this doesn't happen in time, 400,000 soldiers could be killed there. It would have been a great disservice to Britain and France. They might have lost their countries forever. Winston Churchill came up with a plan to evacuate the soldiers. Operation Dynamo was launched on May 26, 1940, the greatest evacuation in military history. The German army had reached the beaches on land. They fire on the troops, and the German Air Force added from above. June 4, 1940, nearly 350,000 troops across the country were successfully evacuated. But the bad news was that most of the Allied forces' military equipment had been used up in the evacuation. And a few days later, on June 22, 1940, France capitulated to Hitler. At that time, Italy was under the rule of the dictator Mussolini. He made an alliance with Hitler, waged war on France. The alliance between Italy and Germany was called the Pact of Steel. The two countries declared war on France and Great Britain on June 10th. By July 1940, Hitler had brought almost all of his neighboring countries under his control: Austria, Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands, and France. At that time, there were only 3 major countries in Europe: Germany, Great Britain, and the Soviet Union. Germany and the Soviet Union had a peace agreement, so Hitler didn't have to lose his guard against the Soviet Union. He believed the Soviets would not attack Germany. He thought that Britain was the only remaining fighting Germany. You would wonder about America's role. America was not yet involved in the Second World War. America held back because America had no interest in interfering in Europe's situation after World War I. So why did America take on the role when it didn't want to get involved? And what role did Japan play in the Second World War?
On the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender!
Let's continue this tale in the next video. Until then, check out the part 1 of World War II. Thank you and see you in part 3 of World War II. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.